Greetings, all my Padawans. Thanks for checking out the V'ger Network. We're about to take a journey way across the galaxy, far, far away on the outer rim, to a little planet called Dagobah. That's right, we're going to talk about Star Wars today. Aren't you guys excited? So, Empire Strikes Back. This is the second installment of the Star Wars franchise. It takes place after the rebels have defeated the Empire, blown up their massive planet-destroying Death Star, but there's still some struggle. The Empire still rules the galaxy. In part of this story, we find Luke going on to train as a Jedi, and he finds himself at the home of the Jedi Master Yoda on the planet of Dagobah. Now, what we're going to focus on is the cave. He goes into this cave, he's about to go in rather, and he feels something. He says, what's in there? And Yoda tells him, only what you take with you. Luke goes to strap on his gear, his lightsaber and his pistol, and Yoda says, don't take those, you won't need them. But he takes them anyways, and he goes into the cave, only to be confronted by the visage of Darth Vader, his #1 enemy, right? He is the embodiment of the Empire. Well, they have a lightsaber battle, and Luke wins. Luke defeats him, decapitates Darth Vader, and as the head falls into the ground, the mask explodes to reveal Luke's face. Now, this scene is typically called the failure at the cave. Afterwards, we see Yoda just shaking his head and poking at the ground in quite dismay. But I always wonder why it's called failure. I mean, didn't he beat Vader? So I went to the experts to find out why. This is what they had to say.
Empire Strikes Back, Luke has his trial in the cave, and a lot of times that's referred to as the failure at the cave. Why is it a failure when he actually defeats the Vader that's in there?
Well, in some ways, you can see how most people would see it as a success and not as the failure that it really is. But in my opinion, the way that it's a failure is because before he goes in, Yoda says he will not need any of his weapons or any of that. But he takes his lightsaber in anyway. And a way that could be seen as a failure because he was relying solely on his weapon, not anything else, not the Force, not his own skills of survival, just his weapon. So in a way, it was kind of showing how he wasn't prepared or mentally ready to face like actual challenges or problems that would require something besides his own actual lightsaber.
Oh, do they call it that?
Yes,
So
they
it's
call
like
it that.
This is like an actual thing. Okay.
All right, so to me, it's failure at the cave because A, Luke took his weapons into the cave when Yoda told him he would not need them.
Okay.
And B, Luke instantly went to using weapons instead of the Force.
He shot first.
Yeah, he drew.
He drew his lightsaber first. So it's a running theme in Star Wars.
Right.
Well, I could be wrong about this, but in my opinion, he failed because he brought his weapons inside. He brought the anger and aggression inside, which manifested in him not really fighting Darth Vader, but fighting his dark half, the part of him that was going to be pulled to the dark side.
So, all right. So I just watched it.
Okay.
So basically, from what I watched, directly before he goes into the cave, Yoda is like, gives him this little spiel on, hey, just so you know, fear and anger and aggression are like the paths to the dark side. And if you use those to maneuver in any way, that's going to set you on that course. And then that's going to like forever dominate your destiny. Those are the exact words. Forever dominate your destiny. So like you're then like entwined, I guess, with the dark side. So, I mean, first of all, he doesn't listen to his teacher. He failed before he even walked in because the guy who knows what he's talking about, he's just like, meh. He doesn't even like have a conversation with him about it. He's just like, nah, I think I'll do this the way I want to, and takes his weapons in. So, you know, obviously when he sees Vader in the cave, he is visibly afraid. And then he asks Yoda, how do I know the difference between the dark side and the good side? And he says, when you're peaceful and when you're calm. So he's visibly afraid. He doesn't stop. He doesn't take a moment to calm himself. And he just immediately draws his weapon. So
The failure at the cave. Oh, that you should have prepped me. I got to think about. Well, I mean, the dark side cave was because remember the thing about Yoda is that he says that this force is used for knowledge and defense, never for attack. And when he went into the cave, he took his weapons, which is what Yoda told him not to do, because he said, remember, you will not need them. But when he did, what did he do is he confronted Vader, and he used, and I think the reason it was a failure is because he saw Vader, he became angry, and he attacked Vader. And then when he cut off the mask of Vader, when not cut off the mask, when he cut off the head of Vader and the mask exploded, it was his face. And I think it was, you know, it showed the lesson that he was supposed to learn was that, you know, it's not hard to go to the dark side, and that, you know, and anger, fear, and aggression will ensue. And I think that was the lesson he was supposed to learn. But because he went in there, he went prepared, and he, you know, and he was headstrong, and he, you know, and I think that was why it was a failure, because he did take anger with him. He did take weapons. He did attack. He hadn't learned anything that Yoda had been teaching him, which is it's for knowledge and defense, never for attack.
Hello? Is there anybody there? Hello? Oh, Boba Fett!
How may I help you, sir?
So we're kind of taking a poll on a question regarding Empire Strikes Back and what the meaning of failure at the cave was. Like, why is it a failure at the cave for Luke?
Well, so for Luke, it's a failure at the cave for multiple reasons. You see, Yoda told Luke before entering the cave, your weapons, you will need them not. But yet Luke, being the impetuous young fool that he is, grabs his weapons and goes into the cave. Upon going into the cave, he is confronted by the visage of Vader. And Luke's first reaction, to draw his lightsaber before the Dark Lord has, thus using the Force in anger.
Luke defeats Vader. So why is it called failure at the cave?
Because he failed to control his fear. He saw himself underneath Darth Vader's mask.
But he still beat Vader.
He did, but he was fearful that he would turn to the dark side, which is why he saw himself under Vader's mask.
All right. Interesting. All right, man. Ooh.
It's taking me a moment just to even process the particular failure at the particular cave you're speaking of. So,
Empire Strikes Back.
Yep.
Luke and Yoda.
Yes. Well, I mean, the whole thing with the movie was that Luke was jumping in, rushing into something that he wasn't ready for. Didn't know what he was going to be expecting. Wasn't prepared. And I don't know. I think to me, at least from Yoda's angle, he's using too much pain, too much hurt, too much anger in what he was going to do. He was acting instead of thinking. When it came to making it through the cave and and passing the test, so to speak, if that makes any sense.
In my opinion, the reason why this scene is colloquially referred to as the failure in the cave is that it's a test of Luke's ability to be able to choose what feelings he is allowing to have control over his actions. So the Jedi traditionally are more the detached, if any feelings at all, they should be feelings of peace and feelings of justice and righteousness. And traditionally the Sith are more the anger, hatred, power, more of those types of feelings, the quote unquote negative feelings. And so when he is facing Darth Vader in the cave, he's presented with a choice. He can either allow the more light side of the Force feelings to take over and to be more peaceful and be more calm, or to act out of anger or out of fear or out of hatred. And in drawing his lightsaber, which he was expressly told not to do while he was in the cave, he gave into those feelings of anger and those feelings of hatred, and fear even, I think probably was his number one feeling at that point. And when he did that, he failed.
I'm still not convinced. I'm still not convinced that it's not a victory. And I just had to pose the question. I had to find out why it's not a victory. Because he does. He beats the bad guy. He beats everything that's going on in there.
Okay, but he defeats Vader. He defeats your boss. So why is it a failure? I mean, isn't that a victory?
Well, so the problem you're having is you're believing that it was Vader. He wasn't facing Vader. He was facing himself and the darkness that lies within. So all he did was to defeat himself.
All right. Well,
I'm assuming that he probably feels like he won in the cave because he chopped the dude's head off. He's like,
yes,
I did it.
He beats Vader. Yeah.
I conquered my enemy. I did it. And then he looks down and sees his own face. And so the problem is that, as Yoda explained, because he acted out of fear, he acted out of the traits associated with the dark side, he is now entwined his destiny with the dark side. He's now like set to be on a path with the dark side. Did I get it right?
He beat Vader. He beat the bad guy. How is it a failure? It's a victory.
But he did it with the wrong motive. He did it the wrong way. You know, you can go in and fight a war and win the war by completely, destroying the nation and destroying the enemy that you're fighting against, even those that might not be fighting you, killing all the civilians. You can completely wipe out a country and win, and yay, hooray, you beat the enemy. But the way in which you do it matters. And so, yeah, he beat Vader, but the way in which he did it was a failure. It exposed the hatred and fear that was inside of his heart, instead of approaching it in the way of the Jedi.
He didn't beat Vader, he beat himself. I think that what they're showing is that is a possible part of him.
If you continue, Obi-Wan and Yoda were concerned about Luke confronting Vader before he was ready, before they had a chance to prep him, because they knew that there was that chance that anger, that fear would come, and he would, and even because look at in Return of the Jedi, that's exactly what they were trying to do. They were trying to make him angry to defeat Vader, to destroy Vader with his anger. Get into your anger. Sorry, that was my bad impression there, but give into the anger and strike him down and replace him, and that's what they wanted him to do, because that was what. But the cave, even though it was considered a failure at the time, I think opened his eyes to what he had, what the potential was, and that's why which is actually a foreshadowing of what comes up in Return of the Jedi when he's again faced with those kind of situation, and what does he do? Throws his lightsaber and says, "I'm a Jedi like my father."
Wow, that is a lot to process, really. And it's kind of amazing that a single 10-minute clip from a 40-year-old movie would have such an impact on people in general and on the later movies as well, in particular, Return of the Jedi. There is a lot there. There's a lot there to unpack. There's a lot there to talk about regarding fear and anger, and how it influences our decisions, our relationships, and how it can lead us down different paths. And we will talk about that. If you want to leave a comment, if you want to email us, please do. And we can dive into that, and we'll do other videos that have to deal with that particular topic. But for right now, I want to pull back a little bit. I want to look at the bigger picture, an overview of what this whole thing was about, and that's the failure at the cave, or as I've kind of come to believe in it, the proposed failure at the cave, because again, I think that there is something of a victory there, even though nobody wants to join my bandwagon. My point is this: everybody believed that that's a failure, and they have their own reasons, including Yoda and Obi-Wan. Yoda calls it his failure at the cave and says that's why he's not prepared to leave and go save his friends. In fact, I personally believe that Yoda probably never had faith in Luke from the very beginning. The whole entire time he's training, he's just downcast, and he keeps telling him what he's not instead of what he can become, which, not a great teacher, right? I don't think. That's not to say that Luke didn't give him every opportunity to feel that way either. But the thing is that he just kept saying it was a failure, it was a failure, it was a failure. Now here's the thing. Hoovie, Jet, and Jasson all touched on it briefly. In Return of the Jedi, he still has that fear, he still has that anger. And it comes out when he's fighting Vader, when the Emperor is pushing him to take Vader's place and to become his new apprentice. And when he gets to that pivotal moment, and he has the opportunity to do it, he has the opportunity to defeat the evil, he throws down his lightsaber, like Hoovie said, and says, I won't do it. I am a Jedi like my father. And he chose the path of defense and the path of right. I bring that all up because of this. There's another pivotal point in history where, outwardly looking, it's a failure. When Jesus went to the cross, everybody around him, all his disciples, all of his followers, thought that it was a failure. They scattered, they hid, they lied about even knowing him, they denied knowing him, they were terrified and they ran. But that's not the end of the story, is it? Because 3 days later, we're told that he is raised from the dead. He appears to his disciples. He appears to multiple people. And things turn around. I think Andy Stanley kind of summed it up a little bit better in a question that he asked in his series Starting Point. When he says, if it had been a failure, if none of that had ever happened, what made this group of people who were terrified, who scattered, who lied about everything that they knew, 3 days later become so emboldened that they refused to be silenced, even costing them their own lives? Something to think about, right? Failure into victory. Hey man, I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. We had some fun. It was a good time. If you want to continue your Star Wars fun and you're in the Richmond area, check out Area 10's Summer of Fun. They are running a Star Wars night where they're going to consecutively run the entire Star Wars saga. I also want to personally thank everybody that was a part of this video, especially Miriam, who is not the Star Wars geek that most of us are. She specifically watched this video to participate. That was the sole goal of watching Empire Strikes Back, and I thank you so much. Stick around, because right after this there are some outtakes and the complete interview with Jasson, which I think you'll find pretty interesting. Alright guys, JLY.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure. That's really good.
Okay. I'm a nerd. Star Trek.
I'm really disappointed. Nobody wants to join me on this. It was a victory. Nobody believes me.
Well, it's not called the victory in the cave. The way you're set.
Thanks, Brendan. Appreciate that. You ready?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, hello there, beautiful.
All right. Already, we're gonna have to edit that out.
Even though he still beat the thing that he fights, it's still a failure because of how he went about the fight.
Like you remember the final scene in Jedi, he wins by not fighting.
Right.
So I always took it was the failure at the cave because he brought the aggression in. You know, he brought the you know, like Yoda says, you only whatever's in the cave is what you bring with you.
Okay.
Yeah, and he brought the fear and aggression into the cave, and that's how it manifested. That was my take. Now, there's lots of expanded universe guys that probably have a much better answer than that, but that was what I always took away from it.
Gotcha. Well, I think it's interesting that you bring up how he reacts in Return of the Jedi, because it almost seems as though he took what he learned from that and flipped it around and used it as a lesson to truly have a success.
What the first thing that he does? What is the first thing he does when he turns off the saber?
He throws it away. Yeah.
He throws it away. All right, because he brought the weapons into the cave. Same type thing. No, I will not. I will not. He throws it away. Regardless of what happens to him, you know, the Emperor fries him moments later. But yeah.
Now, conversely, Anakin doesn't really have a failure at the cave experience or a cave experience himself, but he has a lot of dreams and visions and things. And instead of learning from those visions and things, he allows that fear and aggression and anger to just continually build. He doesn't see how that will affect his future, would you say?
I looked at Anakin's failure at the cave in his Tusken Raider camp massacre.
Okay.
And it was even on a grander scale. You know, you had Qui-Gon calling out to him from the Force nether regions, you know, causing a ripple that, you know, that even Yoda and Mace Windu felt.
But everyone else is like a Star Wars nerd, right?
Yes.
Had I not been prepped for the question, you would have gotten a lot of this.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for taking the time to meet with us today.
You're very welcome, sir. It's only 5,000 Imperial credits.
I'll zoom that right over to you.
Greatly appreciated, sir. Thank you.
Take care.